Hey, it's your friend Choice CJ here, and I'm coming to you guys today with our Week 2 battle of the PMC, which is the 3DS League that we are in. This is the D-League, and we are going up against Evil Orso, coach of the Windsor Weaviles. Before we get too far into it, a couple of things. I did put up a team builder video for this battle, and in that team builder I also discussed some free agent transactions that we made that will be taking effect in Week 3, so please go check out that video. And second off, I did make a layout for this battle, and I hope you guys like it. Let me know what your thoughts are down in the comments below. Leave me your feedback, and we'll try and come up with some ways to improve this even further for the future. If you don't have time to go watch the team builder, let me quickly discuss the team. We have a physically defensive Whimsicott, Adamant Life Orb, 3 attacks with Protect, Scolipede, especially defensive Hydreigon to serve as a Victini counter. Well, there's a chance that he could be bringing physically offensive Victini. Knowing Orso, he really likes the specially offensive version. Excuse me. We have Stealth Rock, Substitute Jirachi. We have an Expert Belt Embor, and we have a Life Orb Heliolisk. And he is packing a team of Donphan, Clefable, Mega Absol, Registeel, Salamence, and Victini. So he definitely has a really threatening team. If I get my Hydreigon weakened, that Victini is going to be able to put in work. I'm really hoping I can get up rocks early, so that way I can damage the Victini and hit it with a Dark Pulse as it clicks something like Focus Blast or Dazzling Gleam. Salamence is obviously very scary. He brought Scarfments last week to his match, so I'm expecting that again, but there's also a chance that he brings some sort of Dragon Dance set. And Absol is always a threat. I don't have anything that outspeeds it. Scolipede can't outspeed it after a speed boost, but it gets hit pretty hard by Sucker Punch, so that's not really too reliable. So, we brought a team that's good, but we are in no means in a favored position going into this battle, in my opinion. So it's anybody's game at this point. And in the last week, he did go for a Donphan lead, so I decided to go with a Whimsicott lead just to potentially counter that. We can go for a Leech Seed, and if he clicks something like Stealth Rock, we can Encore it, and then get off a U-turn in the preceding turns. But instead he leads off with Victini, which is also a good lead option. And obviously I can't stay in on this thing, just due to the threat of the Fire move. I do go into my Hydreigon, and he makes a really nice prediction. Goes for U-turn. I suppose it's in a way it's an obvious first turn play, but I wasn't really to risk my Whimsicott that early when it's a good counter for the Donphan and the Salamence and stuff like that. So he does end up sending out his Clefable, and that's going to force me out. I should have clicked U-turn here, but I kind of had a brain fart, as I did a few times in this battle, and just hard switched into Jirachi. Because I can easily take the fairy move. Now, this Clefable could, of course, be packing the Flamethrower, so I am not going to go straight for Stealth Rock. Instead, I'm going to click Substitute and scout out for that Flamethrower. He does switch out, though, which leads me to believe that he does not have Flamethrower, which is obviously great news for me, and I do get off my Substitute. Now, staring down this Salamence is not really fantastic. I could set up rocks here, but just out of fear of a Dragon Dance, I am just going to go ahead and click Iron Head here. He doesn't show the Intimidate, so obviously that means that he is Moxie. Moxie Scarf is way more popular than Moxie Dragon Dance, certainly. But I did still want to get off some damage on this thing, and I didn't want to take anything for granted and assume that he wasn't Dragon Dance. So we do have our sub broken, but we get off a nice amount of damage on this Salamence. I take a little bit of a risk here and go into the Hydreigon. Just anticipating the Earthquake and anticipating that he is Choice Scarfed, just because it is what he brought last week and didn't show the Intimidate. So it made the best play that based on the information that I had, I thought. And we were able to dodge that Earthquake. He brings in the Clefable, and we have a nice opportunity to go for a Roost here. So we are back at nearly full health, and we are once again in a decent position to take on that Victini. This time we do go for U-turn, and we are going to be going back into our Jirachi. Which is going to give us an opportunity to finally set up our Stealth Rocks. As I mentioned earlier, this Clefable probably doesn't have Flamethrower, because it didn't go for it against me the first time. So we easily take a Moonblast, does maybe 15% to us. We do see the leftovers on Clefable here in a moment. We would have seen that on the first turn, but we didn't click U-turn. He gets basically back up to full health, so we are going to go for our Stealth Rocks here. Get them up, more or less for free. Shoutouts to Chimpact. But the problem is that the Victini now comes in, and the monster is inside. So we got to make another switch out into our Hydreigon. Now, he saw on the first turn that when he led with Victini that the Hydreigon was the switch in. So he makes a really nice read, and he predicts this and goes for the Dazzling Gleam, which is really unfortunate. It is going to pop our Roselli Berry here, as you can see. The whole point of this was that we'd be able to get it in, not for free, but on a resisted hit, and then we'd be able to take the Dazzling Gleam fairly easily and catch it off guard with that Dark Pulse, which we put enough investment in to guarantee an Oko after one Stealth Rock hit and one Life Orb recoil. So we switch out here. We could have stacked up to the Hydreigon because maybe its usefulness isn't quite as great, but I still think that it has use because we can roost up on a choice locked Salamence. We can potentially roost up on this Donphan here. We can roost up on the Registeel. So there's some plays that we can make. And I go into Scolipede, and he switches out. I go for Protect, hoping to, that he stays in, goes for a move, and that I'll be able to outspeed him on the next turn. But he makes a good play. Goes into Donphan. He's most likely just going to go for Rapid Spin here, but I'm not going to risk it. Earthquake does like 53% minimum to my Scolipede in that situation. So I'd rather just go into the Whimsicott, and I'm going to fire off a Leech Seed up against Orso here. Excuse me. U-turn would have been a viable play as well. It's really funny, actually. I click the Leech Seed here, but then I again forget the set that I have, and I don't click U-turn. To be quite honest, I'm still kind of getting the hang of battling on the 3DS. I'm not going to sit here and say, make excuses or anything. But it's just the reality. I'm not quite at the level I want to be at yet in terms of making the best plays in these games. But nonetheless, we do go into our Garth. I didn't think he was going to be going for some sort of ground move on the Whimsicott. That didn't really make a lot of sense. So I thought the switch into Garth was fairly safe. He does go for Toxic, which really works out for us since we're obviously immune. Now I am going to click the Substitute after this Leech Seed damage heals us up to a good amount of HP. I'm going to get probably to like 190, 191. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, go for Substitute, and, just trying to scout out for his Earthquake. And it turns out that he most likely doesn't have it because that's what he would have gone for right there. And we are up with a Substitute against this Donphan. I'm really excited to be in this position because, even though this Donphan is pretty clearly defensive, with a couple of flinches, we can really wear this thing down. We get about 20% off on the Donphan, but he breaks through and is able to land an Earthquake, which is going to take out our Substitute. But that's no problem. We're going to get some leftovers back. We're at a good amount of HP here. And we get what I would say is a pretty safe switch into Whimsicott. Donphan could, of course, be packing the Gunk Shot, but I'm not expecting it. Sorry again for all the coughing, guys. I was coughing all up in my Team Builder video, and here I am again. But I digress. He goes for a nice play and goes for Stealth Rock. He could have easily clicked Earthquake again, but made an aggressive play, got up his Stealth Rock. That's going to be really annoying for Pokemon like Emboar and Heliolisk that are really going to want to have as much HP as possible because, the Heliolisk has Life Orb. Getting hit with Stealth Rock means one less Life Orb hit. And you get all that recoil damage from Emboar. This time I am going to make, I think, what was probably the best play. It was probably the best play the last time as well. I am going to click a U-turn. And this is the perfect opportunity for me to go into my Emboar. Should have done this earlier and just stop, quit messing around. This thing, when it comes in on Registeel, something on the team dies. Everything gets 2-hit KO'd by this monster. So he is going to switch out on the Flare Blitz, and he's going to be going into his Donphan. Now, even though this Donphan is fully defensive, this is an Emboar. So Emboar is a Pokemon that doesn't really have great switch-ins, as you will see. That does like a clean 60-65%, and we are going to outspeed. I put enough speed on this thing to outspeed a Jolly Don fan, which is pretty hilarious, but as I said in my team builder video, I'm not taking any chances after that MV match, and it's going to give some people ideas on how to use their Don fans in the future. So we are able to knock that out, and he is going to bring in his Clefable. We could have just clicked Flare Blitz again and brought this thing down to a pretty low amount of health, but as I've been doing this whole game, I go into my Jirachi. He actually goes for Psyshock. I guess he's packing that strictly for the Emboar, but I think something like Flamethrower might have been better because the Jirachi is probably a bigger threat to this Clefable and also to his team in general. But in any case, now that the Dawn fan is gone and we know that this Clefable cannot hurt us, this is a really good opportunity for us to get up our rocks for good. And that's going to really begin to hinder his team. His Salamence is already at about 50%, and so he'll come in a little bit above 25%. This Ares is at like 75%, so if he goes for a move here and then switches out, comes back in, he'll be at like 40% or lower. So we do just go into our Hydreigon here. Now that we haven't gotten an opportunity to heal ourselves up, we are just going to sack this off. And of course, without the Roselli Berry, we're not nearly as threatening to this Victini anymore. Does get the burn with that blue flare, but as you'll see in a moment, we are very fortunate, and we are going to live on a sliver of health, literally 1 HP. And it's not a huge deal, but it was nice to be able to take one more Life Orb hit, force him to take one more Life Orb hit, just so he's a little bit weaker. As you can see, he's at about 50% now, so if he comes back in, he will be pretty low. Now, we can't come in with our Heliolisk here. This Heliolisk has just enough outspeed IVs to outspeed Victini, and at the range that he's at, a Hyper Voice will kill. We are packing Surf, and Surf probably would have been a better play, considering that this Registeel was the obvious switch-in, but in the grand scheme of things, Surf wasn't going to do a whole lot more damage to the Registeel than the Hyper Voice. But we're in a position now where we can, I think, pretty safely go into Emboar. If he's packing the Earthquake, it's bad, but I don't think he has the Earthquake because he didn't go for it before on the Jirachi. He did a hard switch out and brought in the Victini. So I think the Emboar safest switch. We do take rocks. We do take rocks, which is unfortunate. But he goes for Iron Head. Probably just because it was the most effective move he had. He probably doesn't have Earthquake, as I said, so he had no reason to click that, or he couldn't click that on the Heliolisk. So now that we're in against the Registeel again, something else is going to take a huge chunk of damage. He does switch in the Clefable, and this is going to do a ton. You guys watch this. It's at completely full health, and it does like 85%. Unfortunately, Clefable is a really fat Pokemon with a lot of HP, so we are going to die to the recoil, but Emboar has certainly done its job. It's softened up his team, and we have a pretty good opportunity here, I think, to go into the Scolipede. I could have clicked the Poison Jab, but I was fearing the switch into Registeel, and I'd rather get off some damage on that if possible, and Earthquake I calced, and it should be enough to take out the standard Clefable, which you can see it does. And if he switched out into the Salamence, I can just protect the next turn, and he is going to be at 26% on that switch-in. And we're going to be able to protect and then just take it out with the Poison Jab. He does switch in the Registeel here, and I calculated it again, and I was like, wow, this Earthquake should probably kill. So we take out the Registeel, and now we're starting to look pretty good. We're starting to get some momentum. The Heimlich is in here. He's at +2 speed. And Orso's going to send out the Salamence. It's going to take the damage, as I explained. And we do outspeed it. So there's no reason to click anything but Poison Jab. And we are able to take that thing out. So Scolipede in here getting back-to-back-to-back kills. Really putting in the work. I think that, if after the Clefable went down, if he had brought in his Absol then, we might have been in a slightly different position. Because the Absol obviously does have access to Sucker Punch, and we were at a pretty low amount of HP. We were probably at 50%, 40% at that time. The Absol probably would have killed us in one hit. Fortunately for us, that is something that he chose not to do. He is going to go for the Sucker Punch here. I was thinking about clicking Protect to go through the Mind Games and everything, but just decided to let it go down instead. So while we're ahead, he only has 2 Pokemon left, and we have 4, or maybe we have 3 at this point. Yeah, we have 3 at this point. I apologize. I bring in the Afro Man, and it's still a little scary. If he had Fire Blast on his Absol, it most likely would have killed the Whimsicott. But as it stands, he has Mega Horn for his coverage. Goes for that. Does like 50% to us because Mega Absol is just really freaking strong. And we are able to kill it with a Moonblast. Moonblast, I think, kills most of the time, but the Stealth Rocks just really guaranteed the kill there. Now, there's no reason for us to do anything other than sack our Whimsicott here. We now are in a position where we can win this game with Heliolisk. So we just go for Leech Seed just to be annoying because we can. Our Whimsicott's going to go down, and we can go into our Heliolisk, and we can safely go for a move and take him out. I can't remember if I killed him with a Hyper Voice or a Surf, but obviously it doesn't make a huge difference. We do just click Surf. So that's going to be a good game to Orso. We win with a pretty close 2-0. I think if the plays there at the end had occurred a little bit differently, that Orso might have been able to pull it out. But as played, we ended up taking home that victory. And good job, Orso. Your team is really frightening. I'm really looking forward to playing you again later in the season. If you guys did not know, Orso and I are division rivals in this league. So we will be playing one more time, and there's only one person out of our division who can win. There's the possibility that a second person can advance to playoffs during or via the wild card, but that's going to be a pretty hard proposition. There's going to be a lot of competition for that wild card spot. So best of luck to you in the future, Orso. I want to thank you guys, of course, for watching. We are now 1-1, and we're hoping to gain some momentum and start to pick up the W's in this league. We have a match next week against the formerly Bermuda Tri-Attacks. Unfortunately, Kai had to drop out for personal reasons, but we do have Roshan, who is taking over, and he has rebranded his team to be the Detroit Solgaleos, which I think is a really awesome name. Really taking advantage of that Sun and Moon hype. So you guys can check back this upcoming Saturday for the team builder for that match. I think it's going to be really fun. He's also a division rival. I think I might have said that, but in case I didn't, he is in our division, so that match will be just as important as this one. If we can keep on getting wins in our division, we're going to be in a good spot to potentially make it to playoffs. That's going to be my strategy, more or less. So, thank you. Excuse me. Oh, my goodness. Thank you guys for watching. Please be sure to check back for more Pokemon content. And until the next time, I will see you all later.